Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Betting Life's college football pregame betting show. I'm your host, Thor Nystrom, joined as always by NBC Sports' Eric Froton and the coach, Gene Clemons. Later in this episode, we will be joined by Mike Bainbridge for some DFS talk. Over the next 90 minutes, as you guys know, we'll be going over best bets, we'll be going over player props, and then the DFS section with Bainbridge. We will also be answering your audience questions periodically throughout the episode. If you're on YouTube, you can type those into the chat below. If you'd also do us a favor on YouTube, click that like button and subscribe. And if you're watching us on Twitter, if you don't mind sharing that link, that'll also help us get the word out there. Appreciate all that. Appreciate you guys joining us for another week. Froton, Gene, we have a big week of college football here, so let's dive right into this thing, starting with the big game of the day. It's crazy that this is a noon Eastern kickoff, but we have Ohio State traveling to Penn State. We had a line earlier this week on Sunday. It was this thing was at 4. There was some questions about whether Drew Allar was going to play. As we get closer to kickoff, it appears that Drew Allar will play, with Bo Pribula heavily used in sub packages, what it's looking like right now. But this line has dropped to 3. Gene, with all that being said, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, this is one of those games I'm really excited about because it's a noon kickoff, right? Like, this is college football. Like, it's great when you get the 7 o'clock games and whatever, but when you get these early games and you can lock in early with whatever your beverage of choice is and sit down and see it is great. For me, though, like, this Ohio State team has just not been as offensively efficient as I was expecting to see them be underneath Chip Kelly. That could be for a myriad of reasons, right? Like, he's still kind of getting his footing, back being the full-time OC and not worried about they're trying to get down, they're breaking in different players. I get it, but it hasn't been as offensively efficient. But neither has Penn State, really, right? And so this game is going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. That's the way I look at it. This game is going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. And for me, that gives the edge to Penn State, because I don't think Penn State will beat themselves. I think Ohio State might do something that puts them behind, just off of like just something that's just not as executed as well as they would have liked it to be executed. So if I'm going to get points in a game that I think might really come down to 1 or 2 possessions, I've got to take the points. So give me Penn State.
Froton, I'm all over the props in this game. I agree with Gene. I'll get into that in a second. But big prop game as well. I got a lot of action on this game. I think this is a fascinating prop handicap. How do you see that? And do you have any player prop action on this game?
Yeah, when it comes to Ohio State and just the running backs in general, you have 2 split backfields. You get Quinshon Judkins and Trevion Henderson, obviously, and then Singleton and Katron Allen over the other side. So we're seeing they're pretty close in terms of what their numbers are. Penn State's, rush defense has been just excellent this season. And, I'm sure you'll get into it a little bit, Thor, but, there could be some issues on the line with Ohio State on that front. But if I have 2 plays that I'm really looking at, that I'm concentrating on for this game, one, Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State, gave him away last week, put up 101 and a touchdown for us. I was very appreciative of that. He is, again, listed at 34 and a half receiving yards was his open. He's actually up to 39 and a half, which is as low as you're going to find it, up to 42 and a half in some places. I still think with Tate being out there every single snap alongside Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith, he's by far the most reasonably priced. You're looking at Smith, he's around 75. He's steamed up to, in the low 70s, mid 70s, with Egbuka in the mid 60s, 65, 66. Still seeing Tate, even though all the 3 of those receivers are the only ones taking any snaps, at a pretty reasonable price. I like his over. I also like Tyler Warren. What a smoking deal. Early in the week, he comes out at 4.5 on Sleeper and the parlay markets. Right now, he's at 5.5 on Sleeper. However, if you look over at Fanatics, if you have access to that book, still at 4.5 receptions that he opened at, and it's only minus 120, where they're really trying to get your action. That's as good as you're going to find it anywhere out there on the marketplace. I think that Tyler Warren will be targeted quite often. Has I think 23 receptions over the course of his past 2 games. He's at 4.5 here. I don't think they're going to be testing Ohio State on the outside, and he is by far the biggest playmaker on that team. So I like the over for Tate and the over for Warren's receptions.
So I grabbed Penn State +4 on Sunday. I would still take the +3. I would take a money line ticket as well. I like Penn State to upset Ohio State here for
Let's go.
A couple different reasons. I didn't even care who was the quarterback, honestly. Like, Pribula is a really good fit for Andy Kotelnicki's system. And if you see my get up here today, I've watched a lot of Andy Kotelnicki football. What we have heard, the indications we've gotten here last 24 hours is Alar will play with Pribula heavily used in those sub packages. But either way, I was going to be on Penn State. That got all the ink this week was the Penn State quarterback situation. What didn't get as much is how far Ohio State's offensive line has devolved into the gutter ever since their starting left tackle got injured for this season against Oregon. The backup stinks. We saw that against Nebraska. That the guy gave up 2 sacks, 2 other pressures, and the offensive line as a whole couldn't run block. So Ohio State couldn't run whatsoever with their 2 starting NFL caliber backs against Nebraska's front. Penn State's defensive front is way better. Penn State has one of the 1 or 2 best front sevens in the nation, however you want to parse that. Their run defense is awesome. Their pass rush is awesome. Penn State is not the team you want to play if you're having offensive line issues. That backup that I just mentioned, he's injured. It doesn't look like he's going to play. He's a game time decision. If he doesn't, Ryan Day said that they're going to move their left guard, who is he's been an all Big Ten guy a couple of times. They're going to try to move him to left tackle and then shuffle everybody else around. Desperation is a stinky cologne, as they said in Super Troopers. And so I expect not only for Ohio State not to be able to run the ball again, I think Will Howard's going to be under duress this whole game, and he's going to have to throw for Ohio State to win. That's why I agree with you, Froton, on Carnell Tate. He's probably the deal there amongst Ohio State receivers. Other props I like in this game, I mentioned it was a lot. So gentlemen, start your engines. I like the Will Howard over half of an interception. You don't even have to lay any juice on that thing. Will Howard, 10 interceptions last year at Kansas State, thrown an interception in 4 of the last 5 games. Not great under pressure. And he will be under pressure this entire game, in a game where I think they're going to have to throw again to win this game. I agreed on the Carnell Tate one. As far as the rushing, I'm going under on both of them. Both Travion Henderson got that one at 50.5 under. Quinshon Judkins under 51.5. I think they're going to have issues running in a neutral game script. And if this thing, at the end of the game, if Penn State's more, if I'm right, and they're more viable, and then maybe it flips a little bit, they have to throw even more. That's what I'm seeing there. So I'm going under on both the Ohio State running backs. I think it's a really big deal that trench play, as far as how much Penn State's going to dominate in that one. So like Penn State to pull off the upset with their number 3 SP plus defense. Boys, the next game we wanted to hit on, ACC game. We got a bigger spread in this one. Duke traveling to Miami. This line has come up as of this morning to Miami -21 now. It was 20 for most of the week. So we got some interesting line movement. Gene, do you think the underdog Duke Blue Devils, who at least have one thing that they can bring into this matchup and feel good about, matchup specific, which is they have an awesome pass rush. The rest of the team, it's, the offense, sometimes you have to look away with that thing with Duke. They do have the pass rush, though. Do you think they can make life difficult for Cam Ward and it all keep this score close into the second half in an attempt to cover this game?
No, I don't. and the reason why is it's not because I don't think that pass rush will be effective. I don't know what they have behind it. It's one thing to get pressure on Cam Ward. It's another thing to bring him down, right? And so, like, if you're getting pressure on him and you're making him like flush, who's the guys back on the back end that are covering these wide receivers? Like, these wide receivers are good. Who are the linebackers that are covering these running backs? Can that pass rush that's really good hold up against the run? Because we know that Miami, at the core of what their head coach wants to do, is be able to bludgeon you with the run as well as hit you with the explosives. I don't think this Duke team can. Now, I will say that Duke's played tough every game of the week. I mean, excuse me, every game every week. But the problem is when you start playing these offenses that are explosive, it puts a different level of pressure on your offense. And I think that's where Duke will crumble at. I like Miami, and I like Miami to pull away and possibly have this thing up by 4 touchdowns.
Froton, this is, for Miami, you're in the favorite spot here. You have not only the 12-team college football playoff. We're going to get the first rankings on Tuesday. You're not only starting to think about that more potential style points in a game like this. You also have Cam Ward with the Heisman push here. Do you, with that stuff being said, in the prop market in this game, is there any angles that you're looking at, any action you have on this game?
Yeah, with Duke, keep in mind, they've done a great job at suppressing passing yardage at the very least. The most they've allowed all year is 258 yards. That was actually last week to SMU, where they won. They lost 28-27. It was a very competitive game. But other than that, they only UNC threw for 251. Otherwise, no other team other than SMU and UNC have crossed 167 passing yards against Duke. And it's not like they have, an incredible offense, because, quite sincerely, they don't in any way, shape, or form. Their offense is terrible. But they're going to be in a position where they're going to try to shorten this game to the best of their ability. Right now, we're seeing 307 to 311 on Cam Ward in terms of the props market. I don't have an official play on it, but man, I lean the under on his passing yardage here because of the way Duke plays, because they have a pretty good pass defense, and because I think they're going to try to shorten this game as much as possible. And Miami just wants to go and get this game out of the way and move on. So with them being at home, I actually kind of like a speculative under on the 311 passing yardage on Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It's bold. I know.
Yeah.
I know. The first time you went under 300 yards was last week. So I know.
Yeah, but the game script, of course, could flip that way if Miami's running away with the thing, and then Duke does have the good pass defense and the good pass rush. My concern for Duke in this game, it's on the other side, of course, with their offensive line, which is not very good. They're protecting a quarterback that has not been very good in Malik Murphy. And Miami has a pretty good front seven there. Duke also has the running back injury. Jaquez Moore questionable in this one. So, and they've had issues throwing the ball, going back a little bit now. Their star receiver Moore, he hasn't been getting the ball. There's just been weird stuff going on with that. My line on this game is Miami minus 18.5. I guess at 21, I would have to lean Duke, but I had a tough time getting to any plays on this game, to be honest. With Miami and their prop handicap, you just wonder if the game, the huge lead in the second half, then are you going to see a game script flip, or are you going to see them trying to accrue stats, both for the committee and for the Heisman candidacy award? It's just too much for me to get there on putting any money down. But yeah, I the slightest of leans towards the points with Duke if it's at 21 right now. And by the way, for everyone out there, I'm citing my lines, citing totals throughout the day. On Mondays, we have updated win projections for the season that are up on FantasyLife. You can get all that stuff. Code Thor20 gets you 20% off the FantasyLife subscription. That's under tier 2 of that. So you can check all that out as we go throughout the week. Boys, our last game that we're going to talk about in this section, and then we're going to start to answer audience questions, open the mailbag for the first time. So everyone out there, get your questions in, and we'll start answering them in a second. The last game we wanted to talk about in this section, Oregon traveling to Michigan. We have a 3:30 Eastern kickoff here. This line, Oregon laying 14.5, I think is what we have live in this one. Gene, do you think the home underdog in this game is viable at all? Or are we just going to continue to see Oregon, the ascension of Oregon as a legitimate national title contender in this one?
I don't know if we're just seeing the ascension of Oregon as a national title contender, but what we see is that the Big Ten isn't as big as it normally is, right? Like that's really what we're seeing. Michigan's just not good. I mean, we don't want to say it, we tiptoe around it. Like Michigan, they get a Michigan State win last week. They're beating their chest. I'm like, you barely beat a bad Michigan State team. This is not the beat your chest time or the time to call them little brothers or anything like that. They're just not good. How are they going to generate offense? And defensively, they've taken a step back. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a defense, their best defensive back, maybe out for this game as well, which doesn't.
Yes, correct. Will Johnson is confirmed out. Yep.
Yeah. So that's not a recipe for beating one of the best, most explosive offenses in all of college football. I just don't like this. Like, I thought that Illinois would give Oregon like some resistance, because I think Illinois they're a decent football team, right? Like, I can't look at Michigan and go, oh my gosh, they're going to be the ones when they can't pass the ball. Like, how are you going to get the job done? You can't just bludgeon these teams. They now know the script. They know what you can do. So for me, this isn't a matter of whether or not Oregon is going to win and cover. It's whether I can buy some more points with Oregon and possibly get this thing into the plus money. I think this game is going to be a blowout. I don't think Michigan has a chance at all.
Froton, the prop angle on it mentioned Will Johnson being out for Michigan could help out the passing on the Oregon side. And then on the other side, it's kind of interesting because Oregon has the elite pass defense, but their run defense isn't good, and that's all Michigan can do. So it sets up for an interesting sort of prop handicap. You have any action on that side of things?
Yeah, keep in mind with Michigan, like you said, do you really want to try to run the ball up the middle against them? I mean, I understand that Illinois rang up 187 yards on the ground, but they only threw for 80 against them, and that was not the case against Washington. Washington threw for 315, Minnesota threw for 258, and you saw USC go for 283 against Michigan. Now you're going to throw Will Johnson out there which is a first-round caliber cornerback. That's not particularly promising, and this is Oregon as well. I was really interested. You saw Dylan Gabriel open around 260, climbed up 265s where I kind of got him at. Now you're seeing him in the mid 270s here, and I think a lot of that does have to do with just a pretty clear game script. They have the advantage with throwing the ball against Michigan. They do not have the advantage when they're running the ball. Will we see a little bit of Jordan James? Sure. I think he's around 85.5 right now, but I think that bread is going to be buttered with the passing game, and you throw Will Johnson on top of that. I mean, how do you not take that over on Dylan Gabriel? Love it. And then on the other side with Michigan, we have been blessed, everybody. What a fortunate week this is. Early in the week, I put out Davis Warren on my NBC Bet the Edge show. Over 0.5 interceptions. That was at minus 150. And thanks to our friends at Bet365, it's still at minus 150. If you go offshore at Bovada, you can get it at minus 160. Smoke that. Unbelievable. Davis Warren, in his first 3 games, threw 6 interceptions. Last game, mercifully didn't. But if you think they're not going to be and that was against Michigan State. They were in control of that game. You think they're going to be in control of Oregon to where they're going to be able to dictate this pace? I doubt it. They're going to have to put the ball in the air, and that means interception, Davis Warren.
Yeah, totally with you on that one. That was one of my 10 best bets of the week is that Davis Warren over half, because it feels almost free. I mean, Davis Warren, you go back to the start. I'm sorry to laugh, but it's funny. You go back to the start of last season, Davis Picklebrand Warren Froton. He's attempted 96 passes. That's it. 7 interceptions. That is 1 interception every 13.7 attempts. And in this game, he is going to have to throw. They're 14.5-point underdogs. And you're at that point, you're throwing into an elite pass defense, and they know what you want to do. You're just going to force everything to Loveland, and then, anything, downfield, if they even try that. Now we're really playing with fire there. But, yeah, you would project 25 or so, 25, 26, 27, 28 passing attempts for Davis Warren. history would suggest that not one interception is coming, but multiple interceptions are coming. Yeah. The other prop that I like in this game and really like it is, and it's sort of contradictory, but Kalel Mullings over 60.5 rushing yards. Oregon has the elite pass defense. Their run defense is not good. So Michigan, I do expect them in the first half to have success, just grinding that thing away. The efficiency, Oregon's run defense, 97th EPA per run. Oregon also has issues tackling. They're 78th in the country in tackle success rate. Mullings averaging 6.5 yards per carry in 3 games against teams that were ranked in the AP top 25 at the time. He's not going to need many touches to get over this number. Maybe 10 carries is going to do it. He'll get his 10 carries. Last week, the reason this number is depressed was Mullings didn't have a ton of yards against Michigan State. The ground game was kind of sloggy there for Michigan. But Michigan State has an elite run defense. It's the only thing that Michigan State is good at. We have a different story here. Now, the game script will probably flip, right? Like late in this game, fourth quarter or whatever. And that's where Davis Warren, if we don't have our interception by then, will almost assuredly get it in the fourth quarter. But by then, Mullings should have his 10, 11 carries. That is going to be all he needs to go over this one. Without Will Johnson in this game, I can't touch the side. I did have a lean towards Michigan if it was over 14.5. It gets tougher without Will Johnson because now Oregon, they can throw and they have that path to throw. I agree with the market movement for Gabriel on his, jumping up by 10 yards. Froton, just quickly, I like looking around at the Oregon receivers. Evan Stewart at 39.5.
I know, just dangling out there for us.
With that Michigan secondary compromise, that was the one that sort of intrigued me. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's if there's one you're going to take at, that's probably it. Even though they put him back in the garage last game and he didn't cash that 57.5 over, now we get another depressed line at 39.5. It's been the trend where Oregon has needed Evan Stewart. They've broken him out, but when they haven't, it's almost like all right, we don't need to break that package out today. We'll relax. Because last game, one catch for 19 yards against Illinois. Again, they were up 38-9. But Purdue, he goes 4 for 96. Ohio State, which is when they really needed him, 7 for 149. I would think against Michigan, they're probably not going to be sparing the rod, and they're coming hot. They're going to beat them as bad as they possibly can, I would think.
Yeah, and Evan Stewart there on the boundary, he would have seen a lot of Will Johnson if Will Johnson was healthy. That's obviously not the case, and we do expect Oregon to have to throw in this one, and I expect them to throw a lot, especially initially, and we'll see where the game script goes later, but, like we're mentioning, Michigan's run defense is really good. Pass defense not quite as good, and now that pass defense is compromised. Plus, you have the thing of Dylan Gabriel's own Heisman candidacy. So yeah, I like the Evan Stewart over 39.5, which is up at both MGM and FanDuel. It looks like Caesars were at 40.5, but it's market wide. It's right around there. I think that's a good price. All right, gentlemen, should we hop into our mailbag?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, yeah, always.
For the first time today. Appreciate everyone out there watching and dropping us some questions. Let's see what we got. Dan Send asks us, quick question for Froton. Can I have your favorite ladder play of the day?
My favorite ladder play of the day. Wow. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go with Denzel Boston, right? Listed at 59.5 receiving yards.
You are a Boston guy, Froton.
I am a Boston boy. Yes, graduate of the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Even though I'm a SoCal boy now, there's a Boston. I mean, look at USC and what they've been allowing on a weekly basis when it comes to their pass defense. It's been pretty porous. And then, you look at what Washington does. Washington chucks at one of the most prolific rates. This is Jed Fish. It's what his deal is, but not just that, but man, USC, 313 passing yards allowed to Athan Kaliak-Manis and Rutgers. Thor, how do you feel about Athan Kaliak-Manis' passing acumen?
I don't think much of it.
Right. He rang USC up for 313. Maryland 373. Very giving to Maryland. Very kind of him. And then somehow Drew Aller put up a 4 spot. 4 Bills. Penn State 400 passing yards. This is the last 3 games that we've seen out of USC, and you're going to have Washington come to town? Okay, give me a break here. Denzel Boston is going to go off. I think he probably hits 100. If not, you could even look at Will Rogers. You know, he opened up at 228, steamed up to around 234, 235 right now. I think he probably clears 280. So I think there will be plenty of passing yards put up by Washington against that USC offense. And hey, Washington's defense is amongst the best passing defenses in the country. I still think USC is going to try to pass their way through it. So you're going to get points on both sides. That plays right into the script for Washington's pass game.
Yeah, that's a good prop game. I have a couple on that a little bit later on, but we'll save those for now. R. Stews asks us, good morning, fellas. Good morning, R. Stews. Do you guys like a particular side in the Virginia Tech Syracuse game? Thanks as always. Ooh. Do you guys have any plays in Syracuse and Virginia Tech?
Yeah, it's a game. Like for some reason, Syracuse doesn't really seem to want to play a lot of defense when it matters. And like quiet as it's kept, Virginia Tech has been, going about their business. I would lean Virginia Tech in this game. I think it ends up being one of those games that where you see the score start to boom, 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 boom in the third and fourth quarter. But I would lean, if I was taking a particular side, I would take Virginia Tech in this game.
My line on that one is Virginia Tech minus 4.7, fairly close to I think where the line is right now. Froton, you have anything on that one?
Word on the street has it that Kyron drones may be limited today. That's what's circulating the message boards. I got a little tip on that. So that does give me a little bit of pause here. Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
I stand corrected if he
knows about
limited.
Hey, look, Syracuse, they threw 5 interceptions last game. All right, so let's not go and crown them just yet. I don't care who's a quarterback for Virginia Tech, but that is something that could be a factor here. And if that's the case, I mean, gosh, who knows what Grant Wells has in store for us? So that gives me a little pause. I'm laying off of that game, even though I would have leaned Virginia Tech in the pregame before I heard that.
Grant Wells, shout out to Marshall. And next question from our buddy, a professor at Marshall.
Deuce? Oh,
our good friend,
segue.
Professor. He says Toledo is minus 10 at EMU. Do you like Eastern's chances to cover as double-digit home underdogs? Anyone have any plays as we move in on Maction? Maction's another thing that starts on Tuesday.
I got a fun fact for Toledo for you that I unearthed while I was doing some of my research. Do you know that Toledo is tied with UCLA for dead last in the FBS in running back yards per carry at 3.5 yards? Could you believe that? Toledo? Jason Candle? I mean, I was pretty surprised at that. But, I mean, as somebody who owns a few Jarquez Stewart's chairs, I'm really not that surprised, okay? Not that surprised with Mr. Jarquez Stewart's production this year. So that gives me a little pause about Toledo. I love, obviously, Mr. Gleason. Tucker Gleason is a stud and has certainly lifted up that passing game with Mr. Junior, Luther Vandross, and Jerwan Newton. Everybody knows I'm a Jerwan Newton guy. But EMU is rocking right now. I don't think I can bet against them. They're rolling up the points. I would love to see the upset. So I lean EMU because I've had enough of Toledo and Jason Candle. I want new blood up there.
1,000% I would take the points with EMU, especially at 10. Are you kidding me? That thing was 7.5 earlier this week.
Yeah, definitely at home too.
Yeah. And that's just their MO. Like Creighton, that's what he does. It's like drag the other team down to your level, make it ugly, and then we'll just coin flip at the end. That's fine.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And showing line value on it. I don't really understand why the market's pushing this towards double digits, but yeah, double digits for sure. What we would take the home dog. Brandon Johnson says Memphis against UTSA seems like a tricky spot. Who do you guys have outright? I can start on this because I like Memphis. Gene has the stimulus package. I have the fade UTSA package, which I think this is my third straight week doing it. We haven't lost yet, so we'll keep it going. UTSA's defense is last in the FBS in allowing explosive plays. And you see that over and over again. Now Memphis also gives up explosive plays, but they do. The difference here is that Memphis's offense can generate them, and UTSA's offense cannot. Memphis 26th in the nation in percentage of plays that gain 20 plus yards. UTSA is 99th in that. And I think UTSA in particular are going to have issues with Memphis's passing attack. UTSA's pass defense, 104th in yards per dropback, 91st EPA per dropback. Memphis is one of the 20 most pass-happy offenses in America by the rate of the play calling. They're also number 35 in completion percentage, while being only they're 10th in the least amount of interceptions thrown by the rate of that. I don't see how UTSA gets them off the field. So Memphis minus whatever, as far as I'm concerned. Did you guys have anything on that?
No, I 100% agree with you. Like UTSA's defense, they're still living off of a defense that they had 2 years ago. It's not the same defense that they've got now, and they just don't hold anybody from getting down the field. I think this is a bad place for them versus Memphis.
For sure.
Yeah, UTSA's D just gave up 46 to Tulsa last week.
Yeah,
like they're gonna keep Memphis under wraps. Like I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all.
Jeff Traylor missed his window to get out of town.
Yes,
yeah,
100% true.
I and it seems like he's already checked out on this season. I don't really know what's going on there. Like sure, it's one thing, the portal. It's like, a guy like Trey Moore, you're gonna lose him if you're UTSA, but it's like you can also use the portal. It's not just attrition. Like, you have to moneyball it in the G5. Maybe you go down to the FCS. Maybe you're scouting D2, D3. Maybe you're going up a level to see the guys that aren't playing. But like, you still have avenues to improve your roster. So I don't know. Bad job by Traylor this year, and he's going to be there for another year. Elsa Javier asks us, good morning. Any thoughts on Illinois money line hosting Minnesota? Thank you. I don't know that I could do that. Illinois hasn't looked very good recent weeks. They had the injuries. They have not been playing as well, like I said. And Minnesota, I sort of can't believe it because I was at the opener when they played UNC, was not impressed at all. Although they could have won that game at the end. They missed a field goal the last play of the game. And then what was the game with the onside kick? Was it Michigan when they called back the recovered onside kick erroneously? So I mean, Minnesota, you flip just those two things, and all of a sudden, what would they be? 7-1, like something like that. So I think I would have to go Minnesota in that one. But did you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't like Illinois at all. Their run defense quietly trash after Jazon Newton went and graduated, and I mean really bad.
That's a problem.
131st in rushing success rate allowed. Okay, 134th in stuff rate. Getting a stuff 1 out of every 10 rushes. That's it. And you're going to go up against a Minnesota team that has Darius Taylor, has Marcus Major, has at least a couple of credible running backs to be able to take advantage of that. Obviously, Taylor hasn't been quite the monster that he had been on the ground, to this point in the year, but there's no reason why they can't break them out. They rank 30th in EPA per rush. So I think that's a potentially fatal flaw for Illinois, and that Minnesota is going to try to exact their will upon them.
All right. Producer Paul in the chat breaking some news here. Bryson Daly, Army stud quarterback, is out today against Air Force. Wow. That's pretty fascinating. That offense has been absolutely humming, and Air Force have been terrible this year. This is the worst Air Force team in a long, long time. Those service academy games typically are played very close. That's interesting. Gene, I'm just going to go to you live right here. You're a service academy guy. I don't know if you've missed one pick on any service academy. Without Bryson Daly here, I'm going to look at the line. I'm sure we got a shift.
It's already starting to drop.
I
The
bet.
line's already, it was at 23 and I think 23 and a half when it opened. It got all the way down to 21. I think currently it's at 20.
Would you go?
Oh, no. Currently it's at 18 and a half right now.
Wow. I think
It
dropping like a rock.
Dropping.
What would you do, Gene?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see, because I think that there's still a room. There's still a room for the Service Academy stimulus package. And I think that what we have to remember is that these types of schemes are built to have somebody to step in. So I'm just going to give you guys a name to research for the next 40 minutes, right? The next 40 minutes, just keep this name in mind. Dwayne Coleman. He's the junior backup. He's getting a start today from Army. You might want to go and check him out. He's from Selma, Texas. Go and holler at him.
Speaking of checking out, Gene, was watching that Georgia State game. Your boy Ted Hurst looking pretty good.
Murdering. I don't know why they don't throw him the ball more. Like, I don't understand it. Like, every time he gets the ball, he does something great with it, and they still don't throw him the ball much.
Gene, is it true you taught him the toe tap, Ted Hurst?
No, not true at all. I actually coached him on defense. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the state. So he played both ways his senior year. Never came off the field. Started at cornerback, started at wide receiver. Would go over there and lock up their number one wide receiver and then just absolutely murder whoever the top corner was. By halfway through the season, he had a safety over him all day. We were still throwing him the ball.
Huseman told me I had to bring up Ted Hurst because Ted Hurst is on his 50-team league, so he wanted me to thank you on the show.
Yeah, anything I can do.
Ted Hurst Helmsley.
Last question. We'll get into more of the afternoon games. Jefferson E. White asks us, which team can least afford to lose today? That's an interesting question. You guys have any thoughts?
Least afford to lose. Indiana. Indiana can least afford to lose because people don't believe in in what they're doing already. So if they were to lose, just in the eyes of what people believe, they'll go, oh, okay, see, their schedule's been soft. I think that even though I don't agree with what they've said, if they lost, it would be a much more damaging hit than maybe if some other undefeated team lost.
I like that answer, Gene, because it's not just that. It's also you have to go to Ohio State in a couple of weeks, and I think that's the one we're all assuming that they lose. But if Indiana wins the rest of them, they're going to make the playoff. If they get out of this regular season 11-1 with only a loss in Columbus, you can't afford to lose this game and still make the playoff unless you're going to go and upset Ohio State. Froton, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. I would say our friends over on the Lane train, Ole Miss, cannot afford a loss here.
That would do it.
They have Georgia looming next week. If they go and dump this at Arkansas with Georgia coming on deck, that is a bad place to be for the Ole Miss Rebels. Need this one.
I'm going to go with Clemson. They obviously suffered the big loss in the opener against Georgia. They've looked great since then, but they haven't really played anybody. And now you're playing Louisville. Clemson in the thick of that weird quagmire we have for the ACC title game where it's all the weird tiebreakers. There's so many friggin' teams in that thing. They got to win this thing to continue a march towards a college football playoff. Everyone, thanks for your questions. Keep typing them in. We're going to open the mailbag back up a little bit later and bring on Bainbridge, especially stuff to do with player props and DFS. We'll have Bainbridge up and talk about some of that stuff. But gentlemen, moving into the afternoon slate, this is a 3:30 Eastern kick. Florida and Georgia. What is this? The last game we have in Jacksonville for a bit, or we got one next year?
No, it's the last one for I think the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
and then
renovations.
So wave that one goodbye. But the line right now has gone to down a little bit. Georgia minus 15.5 in the market right now. Gene, who do you like in that one?
This is an interesting one because I think Florida, after everyone was ready to fire, everybody was ready to fire the coach after the first game. They've leveled out and started playing some decent football. Amazing what happens because they do have a bunch of talent all over the place. Just seemingly not like the greatest, quarterback play. But this is one of those places where I feel like the game is so big that it elevates the teams to play above their skis. Neutral site game. I think Florida has a chance to keep this thing closer than 15.5. So I'll take Florida with the points because I just believe they've been playing a lot better, a lot more under control. And Georgia can be feast or famine. This might be a famine day. I'll roll with the points in Florida.
Froton, on the prop side of things, there was a couple of injuries I wanted to hit. Eugene Wilson is on the injured list. He's not going to play in this game. Florida also has a banged up secondary. Jason Marshall Jr. is out. Jakeem Jackson and Asa Turner were already out. Damian George Jr., their starting right guard, is questionable, as is Florida starting running back Montreal Johnson. And then on the Georgia side, I thought something notable. Two different safeties, Jonel Aguero and Dan Jackson. They're both out for the first half because of targeting calls in the last game against Texas. And then it looks like Jordan Hall, Tate Rutledge are both probable on their new the SEC injury report, whatever. They use the bye week to get healthy. So you have that stuff going on. The other element, as far as the props go, projected 15-mile-per-hour winds for this game is what I was seeing last night. I just checked, and there's another forecast where it's more like 12, 13 for this game, but we do have some wind here. With all that being said, do you have any prop action on this one?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple little leans here, and they're on the Georgia side. Well, actually, excuse me, they're on the Florida side. As you mentioned, very important injury. Trey Wilson, Eugene Wilson for Florida is their most dynamic option. I mean, he's pretty much a guaranteed 10 targets a game. And with Florida, I think understandably looking at a chasing script where they're going to have to be thrown a little bit much, his absence only serves to boost Badger and DK. I personally took DK early in the week at 42.5 receiving yards. We're looking at 46 at a bottom. You're looking at a 52 at a top right now. I still think that's pretty good because the fact where when Wilson's out, he is the clear number one wide receiver, and he's the deep threat on the outside. Whereas Badger, you see him kind of working a little bit of the inside-outside game. DK is that number one receiver. I think you have to, look at him and take a speculative over given the game script. And on the other side, DJ Lagway, we know that Graham Mertz, he tore his ACL. We will not be seeing Graham Mertz today. With that, they've been splitting a lot of that time. With Mertz out, it's only going to be DJ Lagway getting all these snaps, the true freshman, 5-star, number one QB out of this class. And they're playing Georgia. Look at what Georgia's allowed over the course of the past 4 weeks. 230 passing yards to Texas, 306 to Mississippi State, 200 to Auburn, 374 to Bama. And currently, I think you're looking at 190, 189, 190 on Lagway. He opened at 180 where I got him. I mean, I just think with them chasing in a rivalry game, 190 happened the last 4 games. I think it's extremely reasonable. They're going to be throwing. I like both of those overs for the Florida passing game.
Well, while you were talking, I was going through and seeing if I could find any book that had a line on Tank Hawkins for Florida earlier this month when Trey Wilson was out. Tank Hawkins, he just steps into his role. And earlier this, I think it was against was it UCF or I forget who they're at the beginning of October. He had 7 catches for almost 100 yards. Tank Hawkins did. Because that Eugene, and he's a true freshman, but that Eugene Wilson role, it's in the slot. You're a glorified running back. It's just manufactured touches. So if anyone drops a catch line out there for Tank Hawkins, I was just going through quick. I couldn't see any, but
haven't seen any out there. I was just looking around. They don't have yardage, or they definitely don't have receptions if they don't have yardage. That's the bellwether.
Yeah, so Badger could be worth a look. I would keep an eye on the weather, but again, it looks like it's going to be okay, somewhere 12 to 14 range. The the 2 props that I played in this game, I as far as a lean on the side, with now that line coming down to 15.5, I don't really have one for that. My line's Georgia minus 15.1. both because of the injuries on the. I would have leaned Florida probably otherwise, but you have the injuries on the Florida side is a part of it. And yeah, the other thing with the potential of wind, as Froton was mentioning, the Georgia defense is susceptible to explosive passes, but I wonder, with Legway, the freshman, and if there is wind, how is that going to affect it? The two plays that I have in this game, Carson Beck under 284.5 passing yards. You got game script concerns there if Georgia does indeed pull away. And then you have the win thing as well. And then I just don't really like Carson Beck as well. Plus, Florida's pass defense is better than their run defense. I also have the over on Carson Beck, half an interception. I don't think I need the wind, or I don't think I need Justin Marshall in this one. Jason Marshall, I'm sorry. I think we see the Carson Beck interceptions all the time. And Georgia will keep putting the ball in the air. So I like that one as well. Boys, moving to our next game, Clemson against Louisville. Line on this one live 10 looks like it's come down to this is a 7:30 Eastern kick. This ACC game, Gene, who do you like in this one?
On here, I think that Clemson, we've been afraid to take Clemson and believe in what they could do all year, because are they really good? They've shown signs that they could be really good, but I think this Louisville team is not. It's no punk, right? This Louisville team is out here, or Louisville.
I can't do
Louisville.
Nobody can say it.
I think this team is good, and their quality, and they're here for the fight. And so, anytime I see games like this and I see double-digit spreads, I gotta take the underdog, right? I've got to take the underdog. Louisville has played well. They've comported themselves well all year. They have an ability to run the ball. They have an ability to pass the ball. They have good coaching. They'll have a great game plan in place. I don't think that the Miami game was an anomaly. I think that Louisville is really good, and I expect them to give Clemson all they can handle. Will they win? I don't know. Will they cover 10? I feel like they have a really good chance to do so.
For sure. Froton, any props on this one?
Yeah, I think when you look at that Louisville defense, and especially their secondary, it's something we've talked about a little bit during the course of this season. They have been extremely giving, and that wasn't the case with the 2023 Louisville team, who had at least, I believe, I forget the name of the cornerback. They had an excellent cornerback who got drafted, I think, in the 4th round. So this is a completely different, and in terms of pass rush for Louisville, Yaya Diaby, just a pretty accomplished set of pass rushers from last year. They're all gone, and they've really seen it in terms of the results with their pass defense. Miami 319, Virginia 301, SMU 291, Georgia Tech 312. They just have been getting gashed by good passing teams. Sure, BC and Notre Dame didn't quite get up to that almost 300 level, but those teams don't pass at the same frequency. Now you're going up against Clemson, where they have shown when they have the opportunity to beat up some of these ACC teams, Dabo's taking it. He doesn't take transfers, but he will go and take a piece out of your posterior if he gets the chance. I think where Cade Klubnik is up in the 270s right now, maybe up to 279. I think I got him at 276. I think he goes and just decimates this Louisville secondary, and I am advocating an over position.
I'm also on Klubnik, like that one, and I am also on Isaac Brown, Louisville's running back, over 62.5 rushing yards. Clemson's defense has shown a real susceptibility to the run, and in particular explosive runs. 99th in yards per rush is Clemson's run defense. And part of this because they have struggled to tackle. 97th success rate tackling for Clemson's defense. Isaac Brown, he can break tackles, get out in the open field, and start chewing up yards. Louisville, 20th in yards per rush on offense, 36th in yards per carry after contact. Brown has gone over this number 4 of the last 5 games, and over 110 yards or more in 2 of those 5 games. And then on, as far as the Klubnik one, Louisville has a really good run defense. So I think they're going to put the clamps on Moffa and company, but Louisville's pass defense is not good. So also I think I don't see Clemson running away with this game. I think this one's going to be close into the 4th quarter. For that reason, on Sunday, I took Louisville plus 11.5 at 10. I could still advocate for that. It's getting closer to the margins. My line on this one is Clemson minus 9.5, but like the over on the Klubnik passing, the over on Brown. I don't have the Moffa number in front of me, but you could also consider an under on that, I think, as well. Boys, last one we're going to talk about, then we're going to bring up Mike Bainbridge in 5 minutes. So quick hitter on this one, but 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Big game in the ACC here. Pittsburgh is getting 7.5 points traveling to SMU. Gene, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I think this one is the intriguing one, right? Like, will this be the time that we see both of these offenses clicking at the first round? Because I can tell you what I would like in this is the over. I'd like the points to just go like bananas. Like, just I'm here for a shootout. Pittsburgh, SMU, just boom, 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 boom. I think it'd be a great matchup between these two guys, because is Pittsburgh for real? Is SMU for real? This is the game that we find that out. And I think both teams won't leave any bullets in the chamber. Like, they can't afford to. You absolutely need to win this game in order to make the country believe that you are, like, for real. So I think this is a game where you see both offenses clicking on high cylinders, on all cylinders, excuse me. That's why I think that this leans towards the over for me. As far as the side, I think it's going to be the 7.5 almost seems like a little bit like much, because I don't know if SMU is 7.5 points better than Pittsburgh, but I can't necessarily say they won't win by a touchdown. That's why I'm so on the over right there. If I had to lean aside, though, I would definitely lean Pittsburgh, because I'm not sure that SMU is a full touchdown and an extra point better than Pittsburgh. I think this game could be close, but I also think that these points are going to be high.
Froton, any prop thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, this game, we didn't know coming in this week whether or not Eli Holstein with a concussion or Kevin Jennings, quarterback for SMU with a leg injury, were going to play, but it looks like both of them are getting the go-ahead here. And for, these teams, Pittsburgh undefeated, SMU 1 loss. Huge game. And in terms of and we're looking at with Jennings, he opened at 217.5 on his passing yardage line because of the concern about his health. Since he's been pretty much cleared to play, you've seen that shoot up in right around like 230. If you look at, on a game-to-game basis, he is just crushing that number. It's hard not to like what we see, from the Jennings situation. And then on the other side with Pitt, defensively, this hasn't kind of been the Pat Narduzzi ultra, stalwart Pitt defense. It's kind of been more on the Cade Bell side, offensive coordinator, where they've been shooting it out pretty significantly. Syracuse put up 321 passing yards against them. Cal put up 272. UNC put up 269. Youngstown put up 238. So they're giving up plenty of passing yards. They're not giving up many rushing yards. This Pitt defense, like, good luck. They gave up 6 last week to Louisville, 63 to Cal. I just think the way that these teams are situated, it's going to be, as Gene alluded to, more of a passing type script. And as long as Jennings is healthy, like, that's a great line at that 228, 229. I mean, if you could get it 217, you were living large right now, but I still think it's good at that number 2 as an over.
One interesting aspect of the SMU passing prop handicap on this is Jake Bailey was announced as out earlier today by Pete Thamel. Now, SMU, they use sort of the waves of the receivers, but is there any play off of that, Froton, that you think has any value with the SMU receivers? Because now you have Bailey out. RJ Maryland, the star tight end for them, was already out for the season. So what used to be sort of that vast ocean of potential pass catchers for SMU has gotten a bit smaller. Did you have any thoughts on that, or is that you staying away from those?
Yeah, I guess my issue with them is as you mentioned, they'd kind of run out wide receivers like hockey lines.
Yep.
A little bit. And, because of that, right now, we only have one receiver that's even on the board for SMU. And that's Keyshawn Smith at a pretty low 35.5. So it's not like you're getting a lot of excitement out of that. I mean, you get one shot. On the other side, Pitt only has Kanata Mumfield and Kenny Johnson. So despite the fact that this should be a pass-happy game, we're not going to get many opportunities to even lay money on these guys. So something to be factored in.
For sure. Yeah, I was waiting for him to drop some other receivers. They haven't yet. They still got, or at least on Underdog, Jake Bailey's first half is up receiving, but he ain't going to be playing in the first half.
He's playing, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Gene, let's go to your FCS play of the day first, and then we'll bring up Bainbridge and then get back into audience questions.
Well, it's interesting, fellas, because I had somebody reach out to me and they were like, what you're doing isn't really that, that impressive. You just keep on going with the same people. And I just want to remind you people out here.
Wow.
The point is to win money.
Yeah.
I don't need to be the most educated on every single. I don't need to find the obscure. Find the money and keep pounding the money. Don't overthink this thing. That's the difference between the professionals and then the people who are out here doing this as a hobby. You want to find the money and you want to lock in on the money. Ladies and gentlemen, Murray State is the money. Last week I came in here and told you that North Dakota State was playing Murray State and that every time Murray State plays a Dakota, they get smoked. They got smoked by North Dakota. They got smoked by South Dakota. Guess what they did last week? They got smoked by North Dakota State. Guess who they're playing this week? South Dakota State. Ladies and gentlemen, Murray State is going to get absolutely smoked once again. But wait, there's more, because the Dakota's Gold Rush is back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, North Dakota State is playing Northern Iowa. Guess what Northern Iowa has done versus any Dakota this year? They've been smoked, and they're going to get smoked by the best team in the FCS this year. I've got South Dakota State minus 42.5 versus Murray State. I've got North Dakota State minus 29.5 versus versus Northern Iowa for my FCS parlay of the week. Enjoy.
Love it. Let's bring up Mike Bainbridge of the CFF site and get into some DFS conversation. We'll also delve more into player props. Mr. Bainbridge, how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
What's up?
We're doing well. Bainbridge, let's do the DFS discussion first, and then we'll dive back into the mailbag because there's a bunch of different questions about props that we want to include you in. But let's start out with your bargains today in the DFS. What you got for the people?
Yeah, for bargain bins, and I know me and Eric hit on this one earlier in the week. Shamiri DK for Florida. Right when the news came out that Eugene Wilson was out this week, we knew that Florida, when they're going to go drop back to pass now, they're only going in two directions. It is going in DK's direction, or it is going in Elijah Badger's direction. So he's only 3,600 on DraftKings. And he has, if you're talking about his prop, he has gone over the number that he was set at originally. I think it was 42.5, 4 out of the last 5 games. So a nice bargain bin option there. I also like Robert Henry from UTSA. We get another G5 matchup, thankfully, on the main slate this week with Memphis and UTSA. Robert Henry's only 4K, and he's getting the lion's share of the carries in that backfield now. Kavorian Barnes, we loved him a couple years ago. He seems like he's a transfer candidate at this point. Rocco Griffin has transferred out. So I think Robert Henry is going to get the lion's share of the carries today. He's only 4K. And I might take a look at his ladder plays on FanDuel. You can get plus odds over 60 rushing yards, and we have him projected at 64. So not a bad option there.
Love it. Core plays for you, Bainbridge.
This is the second time this year that we've had late breaking news that ruined one of my core plays.
Oh,
I'm sure you guys have covered it with Bryson Daly out for Army this week. He was going to be a staple in everybody's lineup. I think you just got to throw your projected lineups in the trash and start all over. So we'll start with Mario Anderson from Memphis. He has been extremely productive this season when he's not spitting on people and getting ejected from the game. 14 rushing touchdowns. The RB1 under offensive coordinator Tim Cramsey is just elite. And here's the best part about Mario Anderson is that their RB2, RB3, and RB4 are out for the season. So he is, I think, all but one drive last week. He got every single carry in that backfield. So he's going to see the volume. And then we'll just change it up. Another high volume play, Andrew Armstrong, 6,600. He's one of a handful of receivers in the country that gets 30% target share, which is kind of that baseline number that I love for an alpha receiver against Ole Miss today.
Love it. Let's hop back into the mailbag, gentlemen, because we got some prop questions here. Nice. DJ V asks us another week, another shot at Braden Locke over 0.5 interceptions. What do you say? We'll start with Froton because you love the interception props as much as we all do.
Oh yeah, I have an interception prop fetish, and we've certainly exposed that on this show on a weekly basis. That being said, with our friend Braden Locke, when we're talking about what has become known as the Braden Locke interception, the only problem here is it's gotten so high, and that's the problem with these interception props. You have to balance the juice on this. He's at minus 182 is the best prop we can find for him right now. If you're looking at more of the conventional books, you're over minus 200 in a lot of places. That's the problem now is you're getting them the 2-1 place. I mean, do I think he throws an interception? Yeah. Is it good value at this point at 2-1? I have to say no. I have other interception props to discuss that I feel are better values than the Braden Locke interception, though. I mean, I think it happens, but you're getting a little expensive now.
That's basically where I'm at with it, and I got a couple more that I want to toss out too once we get there.
Yeah, even money, it's a different thing because we were getting it at pretty much even money for most of the year, and now they've caught on. Damn it.
Xavier Dalton asks us, who's a sleeper to score a TD today? Maybe we'll toss this one to Bainbridge.
Well, I can give out one of my anytime touchdown plays. I really like, and it's not a sleeper at this point, but Tyler Warren at plus odds to get a touchdown. He's not just a tight end, folks. He is the Wildcat quarterback at times in the red zone. So he's going to get carries. He might throw a touchdown. He's going to, obviously, as a pass catcher, he's entered that Brock Bowers like pantheon among fantasy tight ends. So you're getting that at plus odds. Give me that all day.
Our next one, YGG Young Walt asks us, do you guys like Katron Allen anytime TD today? Penn State, of course, hosting Ohio State. You guys have any thoughts on that one?
I would stick with Warren personally as an anytime touchdown play.
Yeah, I'm not on the Katron Allen touchdown personally. I just think there's a lot of variance what can happen in that game, even though I do tend to favor, of course, Penn State. But keep in mind, we do have Bo Pribula, who has been doing the short yardage sort of action too. So he's a factor in vulturing touchdowns in addition to Singleton. I just think it's a lot of mouths we could possibly take away from that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Singleton, his number has been depressed because the last couple of weeks, speculatively, and over on that because I think it was in the high 40s. I think it could be an angle on the Penn State running backs. Elo 7 and SS Miles Cross props against Michigan State ago. Froton, you're a resident Miles Cross guy. I think you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, he got me last week. I was hoping for that over 2.5 receptions. He did not comply with my demands. We'll see about that, of course. Indiana, you got to like what their chances here today. I think they'll be in pretty good shape.
And Rourke coming back.
Michigan State at Michigan State. I think they definitely take a piece out of them here. With Miles Cross burning me last week, though, guys, it's hard for me to go back to him. You burned me. So I don't know. I respect Miles Cross, but I'm staying away from him this week until we get a look.
I would like that one because Michigan State it as a pass funnel defense. And, I mean, when Indiana's passing game is full strength, it's been really good this year. The only two trepidations. It's first of all, how is that throwing thumb of Rourke? We just don't know, right? Like, we'll see. And then if Indiana did start to if they built a double-digit lead in the second half, are they going to run more? We'll see on that. But yeah, for that reason,
29 carries last week out of Justice Ellison.
So. Killed the Tyson Lawton prop.
Did 29 carries? My God.
Lawton went a half yard over from his open. A
lot of people took the 44 and a half. Too,
that one.
Brutal.
Karen Shetty asks us, Justice Low over 23 and a half receiving increased snap counts. Boys, any thoughts on that one?
That's one I looked at. I don't know what their game plan is. I was thinking like, hey, it's going to be Trayshawn Holden getting back into the mix again. But then Lowe played 80% of the snaps as the question alluded to. So
touchdown. Yep.
Yeah, I tend to lean under there in thinking that Holden regains his spot as the wide receiver 2 or 3. But maybe it's just a stay away at that point too.
Justin Tingwald asks us, is Justice Ellison still fine in the 70s? Hit on him last week. Might have hit him. I might have given him out 2 weeks ago too. I actually don't think I have this out officially. I dabbled a little bit in his unders today, to be honest. And reason why is I supremely respect Michigan State's run defense. It's the only thing about that team that I really do respect. Because I had to watch them put the clamps on Caleb Johnson for one afternoon. They were the second team to hold Caleb Johnson under 100 yards. It's why Michigan State upset Iowa State. And they threw a kink in last week to Michigan's run game. They weren't able to pull off that upset, but they had Mullings in a blender. They had Edwards in a blender. Michigan could only run the ball with their Alex Orji stuff again, their Alex Orji BS. So respect that. And then also in this game with Rourke back, and again, this is the unknown part that's hard to sort of parse out. But like you would expect, normal circumstances, Cignetti to attack this Michigan defense through the air. They have had success with that. And then if they are able to build up a lead there at the end, Indiana has 4 running backs in that stable. They try to get the other 2 into games when they have the lead in the second half. So I just think there's too many paths for Ellison to go under that number. But do you guys have any thoughts on Ellison against Michigan State?
I do have a thought on Ellison. He's currently at -166 at Fanatics to score a touchdown. He scored a rushing touchdown every single game this season. So I think it's probably likely to happen. Rush defense or no rush defense. Yeah. I think give me that -166. I'll lay it.
You ain't holding Indiana off the board. Yeah, and they give Ellison the ball when they're at the goal line.
There will be 5 touchdowns scored. How is it going to happen? It's just a matter of it, and it's been Ellison every single game. Like that's just too much. It's too good.
Another question from Low 7 and as the under on Judkins rushing, I heard, but how about the over 7.5 receiving? We have any thoughts on the Quinshon Judkins receiving?
I will abstain because God, those running back receiving yardage, they can be fickle mistresses,
and the whole game you're watching, you're like just one doesn't throw it to him one time.
Oh God, it's I'm gonna lay off this one. Bamer, you can take this on the receiver.
I would not play it, but I will say our CFF site projections do have him at 1.5 catches and 13 receiving yards, so could go over there.
And they're going to have to do anything they can to move the ball. And are they going to be able to run the ball in the teeth of their defense? I don't know.
That's the data point for either of those running backs, right? Like, what we talked about before, Ohio State, the state of their offensive line. We know that Penn State's going to get pressure. It just is what it is. Like if Nebraska was doing it at will, Penn State's going to do it at will. And if they're struggling to run the ball, they couldn't do it against Nebraska. Penn State's run defense better. They're going to have to throw, but Will Howard, how much time is he going to have to throw? So that would bring the idea of checkdowns. That's an angle to consider. Steve asks us, any word on Trey Harris playing today? I believe he is he ruled out, or was it game time decision but limited if he plays? Yeah. One thing I can say, I think I can say this. Like after that thing came out, all the books yanked off Trey Harris sleeper, and now this is an hour and a half ago. I was talking with Froton about this before the show on the phone, but sleeper forgot to take down Trey Harris's anytime touchdown, and then you could get it at better than even money. Might be worth a look if it's still up. I don't know if it is or not, but someone at sleeper made a mistake. They yanked everything except for that one. Maybe if he goes out for one snap, that bet is now live. So anyway, let's see. That might be. We have any other one? Oh, here we go.
We have a comment about my Bobby Heenan T-shirt. Like 2 of them, in fact. I'd like to say thank you.
No, we're skipping over those ones.
Bobby the Brain.
Darn it.
YGG Youngwald asks us any props for the K-State Houston game. I actually have one. Youngwald. I like actually quite a bit the Avery Johnson under passing, which is
200 even, I think.
Oh, okay. On one of them, it was 205.5. Today, I saw, a couple of different ones. When I locked it in earlier this week, it was 202.5. But Kansas State at Houston. So a couple of different things on that one. Number one, 14 mile per hour wind today. And then as far as the handicap itself, this number is a little bit elevated because Johnson's throwing 224 or more 4 straight games. But the first 4 games, the 4 games before that in September, he didn't get over, was a 181 was his max in the first 4 games. The last 4, so like what was going on the last 4 with the more passing, in 2 of them, Kansas State played 2 of the worst pass defenses in the entire Power 4, West Virginia and Oklahoma State. They have travesties of pass defenses. And then the other 2 games in that stretch, Kansas State had to come back in the fourth quarter to win against Kansas and Colorado. So there was elevated volume. When Kansas State, when it is viable for them to keep the ball on the ground, they do it. And when they get leads, they'll keep the ball on the ground as well. You would project them to be able to do so here as 13.5-point favorites over Houston in this game. And then the other thing is Houston has the better pass defense and the worst run defense. So in the neutral game script, Kansas State can go towards what they want anyway. I think the run is going to be working for Kansas State, and the clock will go tick, tick, tick. And in the second half, especially if they're up by 14 points, whatever, they're not putting the ball in the air, especially in that win. So that was me. Did you guys have any plays on Kansas State, Houston? Froton, Bainbridge, anybody?
Keegan Johnson got a little high at 37.5 receiving yards, but that feels like a hit or miss type play. So I had the same inkling. I never took the Avery Johnson under, but you just get that sense that he's gone over so many times that this week against a Houston defense that's really good, actually. So
yeah,
they play extremely slow as
and
well.
That's the other thing. Yeah, this is a very slow pace of play game. So yeah, and with the running going on the win like that. The G5 Hive. What's up, boys? They ask us,
Luke and Justice, our boys.
Yeah. Are the Caleb Johnson rushing overs free money this week?
Red meat for you, Thor.
I mean, you can't go under. You can't go under. And with the other thing I'd say about Iowa's offense, and Froton was I think had touch on this a little bit, although with you it was the Russian one, but Brendan Sullivan is a big upgrade over Cade McNamara. Yes. You could wheel someone from the grave right now and they would be an upgrade over Cade McNamara. I can't tell everyone how happy I am that I don't have to spend another 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon with Cade McNamara. And Brendan Sullivan can actually do stuff. Why did it take this long to make the change? We will never know. But now that we have it, Iowa's offense is going to be more viable. You can't just stack the box. I mean, Sullivan, he's not, a world beater or anything. He's not Joe Montana, but they were getting 0 from Cade McNamara. No mobility. He couldn't threaten the defense with his legs. No accuracy. He was just a sitting duck back there in the pocket. So Caleb Johnson finally gets some help for sure. That one's over or stay away.
I cannot believe I'm listening to you besmirch the good name of Cade McNamara for all he's done for our listeners and viewers. Thor
Bainbridge can have him back
at
money, Michigan.
Friend.
He would be an upgrade, unfortunately.
That's actually true. That's actually true. Maybe we should do that.
Get him over there. I want to bet on his unders again. I miss him.
Gosh, yeah. Well, we'll take Davis Pickle, Bryn Warren back for him, Bainbridge, and we'll go. Yeah, we'll do that.
His interception under.
But yes, we would lean towards that Caleb Johnson over for sure. Our Stews asks us, will Clark Lee and the Fighting Pavias go 2-0 against the state of Alabama today? Anyone have any thoughts on Vandy and Auburn?
I was really surprised that Auburn was such a, like, in my opinion, such a big favorite. Did that feel weird to anybody else that they were
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, like what have they seen that I haven't seen out of Auburn to say that Auburn is like for sure like a touchdown plus better than Vanderbilt? I would lean Vandy's way because I don't believe in Auburn, right? Like even if I don't believe in Vandy, even if I don't think Vandy is the greatest, I don't believe in Auburn to go out here and just win by 10 points. Like that's essentially what 7.5 is. That's where it is right now. In some of the places I was looking, like I don't see an offense that's able to just continue to dictate pace. I don't see a defense that's so lights out that they can stop Vanderbilt from making things a little bit interesting. I think Vanderbilt will walk in with a good game plan because they, regardless of what's happened, they want to keep the mojo of the season going. So they're still fully invested. You're not getting by this time in the season. Normally, Vanderbilt students are starting to think about finals. Right, they're not thinking about football because the season's over, but they're right in the thick of this thing, so they're going to be locked in. I don't know if they beat Auburn, but I can't say they wouldn't just beat them. Like I think they're a live dog here. If you wanted to take plus 250, I wouldn't be mad at you at all. I don't see this 7.5. I would go Vanderbilt and be surprised if they didn't cover.
Steve asks us, Iowa, I assume this is our buddy Steve Jackson. What's up, Steve? He asks us, Iowa offensive overs today, Thor. Steve, another Michigan grad, who I think mercifully McNamara has been benched. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that I would. Wisconsin, the run defense has been an issue for them that, informed the Caleb Johnson comments we were just making. Absolutely. And Sullivan can move around in a way that McNamara can't. And he can't help but be an upgrade as a passer over Mr. McNamara as well. So, yeah, I think those numbers, of course, are set at, what has been the precedent with the Cade McNamara offense. We expect it to be better. Last question, then we'll round robin props really quick. Michael Roberts asks us, Indiana minus a 0.5 point to 1.5 first quarter spread after allowing 0 first quarter points this season. I would have to. Yeah, I mean, Indiana has been incredible in the first quarter, and they get the lead on you, and then they can do what they want, and they force you to play the way that they want. That's Signetti football. That anyone disagree with that of the Indiana first quarter line, which is one I think every single week this year?
Absolutely not. No complaints here. That's a go.
We all agree there. All right, boys, we're gonna round robin the player props quick. We got about 10 minutes left, and then we'll do our plays of the day and then get everyone out of here. Let's start with quarterback player props that we haven't given out yet. Froton, I'll start with you.
Quarterback player props. I've given out a lot of quarterback props, but I'll go with Auburn since we got a question about that. We have been blessed, everybody. Peyton Thorne, quarterback, Auburn. His 0.5 interceptions line, you are getting paid to take it. It is actually on Caesars plus 123 to take the Peyton Thorne interception line. That is amazing. He's thrown 7 interceptions this year, all of them against Power 5 or FBS opponents. He didn't throw one against Prairie View, mercifully. But in 4 out of 6 games where he's taken part in against FBS teams, he's thrown interception, including last week. You're going to give us money for that? Fine. And along those same lines, of course, it's interceptions. I got to clear the deck on the interceptions. Taylon Green, Arkansas, 0.5 interceptions over. minus 142. He has done that in 6 of 7 games against FBS opponents this year. What's not going to happen now against Ole Miss, where they're probably going to be losing in a situation where they're going to have to throw in order to come back? Sure. We're going to go with a special one here. This is like my second best bet. Sam Leavitt, Arizona State. Bless you, Michael Bainbridge, for getting this in for me. He was listed at 26.5 rushing yards. He has since steamed up. I've seen 28.5, even up to 30.5 on the rushing yards front for Sam Leavitt. Okay. If you haven't figured it out, I know I've discussed it. Oklahoma State is the worst run defense out of all 70 FBS Power 4 teams. The absolute bottom of the barrel. Sam Leavitt is back. He was out for a few games, obviously. He comes back. We had Jeff Sims in. He's been a running quarterback. He's been blowing this number away. He was injured, so he's coming back. I think that's why it's suppressed. Dude, they're not going to put the ball in the air more than 19 times. You're not going to see 20 passes coming out of Arizona State. You're going to be Leavitt and Scadaboo on the read option all game long. Take that Sam Leavitt over. And one more, we're going to go with Rocco Beck, over 254.5 passing yards. I know Bainbridge literally hated every second of the last Rocco Beck over that we took. He cashed it, and against one of the worst, literally, I think it is the worst pass defense in the country, which is Texas Tech. All they do is breed shootouts. All they do is allow you to throw all over them all game. 254.5, fine. Give it to me. I'll take it.
Bainbridge, quarterback props for today.
I got 3 quick ones that I'm kind of on this week.
Rocco Beck's going to be one of them.
No, I was about to send him hate mail that I love Olive Garden if he didn't hit that over the last time. There's a discrepancy on MGM versus FanDuel with Curtis Rourke. Are we sure that his hand is good? He's at 248.5 on BetMGM, 236.5 on FanDuel. So I might take a sprinkle on the under there, just in case his hand isn't fully healthy. Yeah. Kevin Jennings, interception prop. I know you love this, Froton. He threw 3 interceptions last week facing Pitt defense, who I think is just intercepted Kyle McCord again right now. He's minus 115 to throw an interception. I like that as well. Take the over. And then in the next half an hour or so, let's stay tuned to Kyron Drones, because he is expected to be limited with a bum ankle. They've pulled, I forget if they had his rushing props, but they've pulled him if they were up at this point. Might give a look at his passing under potentially if he doesn't start, or if he's going to be limited today. Maybe we see some Colin Schley as well.
Love it. For me, really quick, Miller Moss, the USC quarterback, I went under 271.5 passing yards. Washington's pass defense is awesome. I also dabble with the Miller Moss over a half interception for the same reason. Woody Marks, like Washington's run defense isn't as good, so I consider Woody Marks, but that number's up near 100, so I didn't do anything on that. Agree with Froton on Peyton Thorne interception and the Taylon Green one. I already mentioned the Carson Beck, Davis Warren earlier. Another one that we had to hit, Noah Fafita, one of our favorite interception throwers.
Interception. Prolific interception.
Prolific, yeah. And their defense is leaky, so UCF's offense should get to some semblance of back on track. UCF is at home in this game. And UCF, their pass defense is bad, but that's only going to incentivize Arizona to throw even more. And the other thing is there's wind in that game. So Fafita already struggles with accuracy, and he's got the swashbuckling thing to him. He'll put the ball up for grabs. He always gets picked, and I expect him to get picked again here. We'll put together running backs, receivers, or tight ends if you have any others, just because we have a couple minutes left. So Froton, any other player props to just unload here?
Yeah, I put out Henry Parrish earlier in the week at 69.5 rushing yards. That has ticked down. I think he's still up at 82.5 total yards, which I think is still good. He doesn't really catch many passes, and I think Ulysses S. Bentley kind of comes up. Jabray the Barber Beefcake. Jabray Barber, 34.5 he opened at. I think he's down to 29.5. Man, good luck. If Marcel Reed's starting, which I think he will, I think they're not going to be concentrated on the pass. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of Moss and Marcel Reed. So Jay Bray Barber has just been an under machine every single game this year. Finally he went over 29.5 one time, where he had 90, and he went right back under it last week. He shouldn't be up there. Daniel Jackson, Minnesota, seems to hit 56.5 every single week. They just pound him with targets. And Minnesota playing a soft pass defense, I like that. And one more I think we got here. Demi Sumo Kongbe. I mean, playing against Tennessee's run defense. He was up at 49.5 to start. I think he's at 47.5 right now. I'm going to still take that under. I know that there's no train him, but man, against Tennessee's run D, he's going to have to get 15 carries, and he hasn't cracked 12 pretty much in any game this year except for one. Give me that under.
You hate Demi.
I do.
Hate Demi.
Sumo. Yeah. The sumo wrestler himself.
The sumo wrestler. Bainbridge, any other player props for you today?
I do like the Tyler Warren anytime touchdown at plus odds, so that's what I would go and grab now. I would look at, I mentioned the Tyrone Drones potential injury. I would grab Stephen Gosnell under 33.5 if we're going to see Colin Schlee at quarterback for Virginia Tech. I also like Kean Burnett, Arizona tight end, under 26.5. It seems like they switched things up last week where Sam Olsen was the starter at tight end. He only Burnett only ran 9 routes all game last week, so I would look at his under 26.5.
Love it. Gene, let's go. Let's kick it to you for any other plays that we didn't hit today that you had on your card.
Yeah, really like a good amount of FCS plays today. Stetson playing Butler. I think the total on that is 50 right now. I love the over in that. Stetson plays 0 defense. Butler plays a little bit more defense, but not that much. But Butler's offense really good. They know how to put points up. I think that thing goes way over. William and Mary at North Carolina A&T. A&T just has not been good this year. William and Mary 14.5. A&T just can't get an offense to be any type of sustainable. I think William and Mary pounds them out and then runs away with it late. I had one more, but now my brain just turned off for a second because we talked about a bunch of them. But
I'll help you out. I will say that Stetson, you're talking about their defense. I've smelled Stetson cologne. My dad wore it all the time growing up. I would say Stetson is offensive if you've ever smelled that cologne.
Yes, I would 100%. Yes,
pungent.
Agree. Cool. It's not a very good cologne.
Oh, Stetson.
It's not a very good cologne. And then also, Oklahoma playing Maine, traveling to Oklahoma to play. It's supposed to be inclement weather coming through. I know in Louisiana it was really bad yesterday. I think they moved the game up to noon because of that. I think Oklahoma just runs roughshod over Maine because they're trying to get back on track. They need to get a really good, again, a quality win. This is a get-right game. Maine is there to collect the check. The weather doesn't bode well for Maine. Maine's offense isn't very good. Their defense isn't going to be able to withstand Oklahoma's rushing attack. I think you see them go and run away with this game because I don't think Maine's going to score. I don't think Maine has a chance of scoring in this game. I could be wrong. That's at minus 37 right now. I think I had it earlier in the week at minus 34, 35 or something like that, but I still like it at 37. But those are the FCS plays that I really like this week.
As a New England guy, I will say Maine would crush Oklahoma in hockey.
For sure. Wouldn't even be close. And they would beat them. They would beat the pants off them in field hockey as well.
Damn right. Thank you.
Which, by the way, one of my favorite collegiate spectator sports.
I had to jump back. I've been thinking about that Quinshon Judkins receiving one ever since we got that question.
It's been incepted in Thor's brain. Great work on that.
I've absolutely emphatically talked myself into the over. You go back to the September 21st, Judkins receiving total. So you had 2 for 14, 2 for 17, 1 for -2, 2 for 38, 1 for 9.
This is going to be another game of just throw it to him one time. But again,
that awesome pass rush against the bad offensive line. They have been looking at Judkins. He's going to get a couple of dump offs. I hadn't even thought about that one. Whoever
Let's
out
go.
there.
I love it. Look at our listeners. Our
Good
viewers
job by you,
kicking
chat.
it.
That's
Well
a good
done,
one.
chat.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, Gene, we'll stay with you for Coach's Corner, or are we going back to the stimulus package today?
Ladies and gentlemen, I was all ready to come in here and give you what I thought was a can't miss, lock, slam dunk, 2-team parlay of a Service Academy stimulus package. Navy is playing today, and they are playing. My brain is not working today. They are playing. Help me out. My brain just
Rice.
Yes, sorry.
Food.
Rice.
Food today.
Rice's defense has been spotty at best. And that's probably being nice. But we know what Army did when Army played Rice. And what we have seen is that we can take a lot out of these service academies when they play other opponents, what the opposite service academy is going to do, because they play a very similar style, Army and Navy. It's almost kind of like they play similar ways. Army probably a little bit more physical, Navy a little bit more, elusive, but either way, they get the job done. I don't see how this stays under 14 points for Navy. Navy runs away with this thing early, especially coming off of a game against Notre Dame where they didn't just get beat. They lost that game. Like, they lost it. Notre Dame didn't win that game. They just lost that game. They gave it away. They'll be pissed off. They'll be ready to go. That's great. And then I was out here and I was ready to go Army, right? Minus 22, I don't care. Minus 28, I don't care. And then we got the news about Daly, and I said, man, that's really a bummer. But you know what? I went back and I looked at the annals, and Army has a saying, leave no man behind. And I started looking at Dwayne Coleman, the quarterback out of Texas, super athletic, waiting his turn. Today is his day. It is Army minus 18. It's dropped all the way down to minus 18. And when you see helmets like this, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what time it is. Army is about to beat the brakes off Air Force because they don't play any games. They're going to drag Daly across that line with them. Not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns. Give me the parlay. Army minus 18, Navy minus 11 for your Service Academy stimulus package. You can put it on the board.
Yes. We're gonna have to start playing patriotic music behind that, Gene. That was incredible. We'll see if that keeps cashing. But Gene is on a run with those. Bainbridge, let's go to you. We're gonna call this Bainbridge's bomb.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna have to switch up the order because I don't know that I can match Gene's energy after those.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna follow it up.
We're gonna have to do the Saints come marching in next week.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm on Quali Conley unders, running back for Arizona, and specifically at ESPN. He's at 79.5, which is the highest number that you're going to get anywhere. He's down in the lower 70s at every other book, and he's had 17.5 rushing attempts. He's gone under that rush yard prop in 4 out of the last 5, and he's gone under the 17.5 rushing attempts in all but 1 game this season. UCF strength is stopping the run. I guess not the last 2 weeks, but in general, their strength is stopping the run. So I'm on those. And I will say, let's keep in tune to these Virginia Tech updates because Tootin is questionable. Tyrone Drones is questionable. It might be something that we can jump on.
Love it. Froton, your torpedo.
Yeah, Thor, we're going to your neck of the woods, going to Iowa. Yeah, we've already talked about him. Brendan Sullivan, my fellow Irishman. With Wisconsin, they're playing Wisconsin. They have been brutal, quietly brutal on the ground. Penn State 173, Northwestern went for $127, Rutgers 168, USC 161, Bama 181. Like, they are getting marched on by everybody. And now you're playing against an Iowa team. Do they want to put the ball in the air? No. What do they want to do? They want to run the ball. And sure, obviously Caleb Johnson's going to get plenty of carries. But now that Cade McNamara is out, you have dual threat specialist Brendan Sullivan. Even though he only played half the game when he came in last week in relief of Cade McNamara, still ran the ball 8 times for 41 yards against Northwestern, right? What do you think is going to happen against Wisconsin? Do you think they want to put the ball in the air and risk the interception prop on Brendan Sullivan? I don't think they want to do that. They're going to run the ball. Not only are they going to run the ball, Brendan Sullivan, 9.5 rush attempts. That is going way over, people. In half a game, he went for 8. Keep in mind, sacks count. Sacks count as rush attempts. Everything counts as rushing attempts. Anytime he gets tackled, it's a rush attempt. Take the over 9.5 rush attempts for Brendan Sullivan. No way they're going to be out there slinging the ball around against Wisconsin. They're going to go after that soft run defense. It's going to be a Caleb Johnson and Brendan Sullivan show, over 9.5 rush attempts. Best bet.
And mine for today, Khalil Mullings, the Michigan running back, over 60.5 rushing yards. That I'm seeing it's now been, just as we've been on the show, that's now up to 64.5 maybe. I'd still play it over. He's going to get the ball. And again, mentioned before, Oregon's run defense, not good. Oregon's pass defense, awesome. That's already, Michigan already wants to do that. They're incentivized to do it even more, run the ball. Mullings, 3 games against teams that were ranked top 25 when they played, 6.5 yards per carry this season. If he gets 10 carries, you would think he's going to go over that number, now in 64.5, whatever it is. Mullings has 10 or more carries 6 straight games. I mean, he's getting 10 carries. And the data suggests that he's going to average 6 yards or more against this Oregon shoddy run defense. Guys, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, everyone who joined us once again for this show. Love having you guys here. Love all the questions. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. For my co-host, Eric Froton of NBC Sports, Mike Bainbridge of the CFF site, and the coach, Gene Clemons, I'm Thor Nystrom. Let's go cash some tickets.